Welcome to toy-polloi.
Hello and welcome to another video from toy-polloi. In today's video we're going to be trying to repair this vintage Gatchaman G-1 spaceship. Now I picked this up very recently on a trip to Japan. It's a die-cast ship. It's made by a company called iDie Corporation and sold under the name Grip, and it's a toy that I have never seen before. Gatchaman and Battle of the Planets toys are pretty hard to find here in the UK, and they're also pretty hard to find in Japan. So when I saw this for sale for 3,000 yen, which is about £15, I knew I had to buy it. The guy selling it did say it was broken, but looking at the bag that it was in, it appeared to have some of the broken pieces in there, so I'm hoping that we can actually get this all fixed up and working. So let's take a closer look at it. I'll show you what's broken and then we'll see if we can get it all fixed up. So here you go. This is the Gatchaman G1 ship that I bought. This is the ship that Ken flies if you watch Gatchaman. If you're watching Battle of the Planets, this is the ship flown by Mark. It's a really nice looking toy. I think this comes from the sort of second series of Battle of the Planets, but as you can see, bits of it are broken, and that's why I got it for 3,000 yen. Normally a toy like this would sell for 50 or 60 pounds, I think, so £15 is pretty good going. It has a unique feature with the landing gear. There's a little lever on the back, and if I twist this, the landing gear goes up. If I twist it the other way, the landing gear goes down. So that part all works. There is a button here on the top which I believe is supposed to sort of launch these wings out in some way, and that appears to be the bit that is broken. But as I said, in the bag we just happen to have these pieces, so that looks like it's part of a wing that snapped off. And there is also this very tiny spring that I keep trying to lose. It keeps trying to roll away. So I've never worked on this toy before. It's going to be a unique sort of project because I've just got to take it apart and see what's wrong with it. I don't often work with die-cast toys either, but yeah, I think we can probably fix it up. There do appear to be some very easily broken parts on it, which I'm amazed aren't broken. This cockpit here, you can see, has some of the chrome has worn off it, but it actually flips up, and inside you can see there's a tiny little pilot which looks like he's slightly on the jaunt, so maybe we can rearrange him. I imagine this part snaps off all the time, so to have this with just the wings broken is pretty unique. So let's go ahead and see if we can work out what's wrong with this. It looks like it's held together just by 3 screws on the bottom, so I'm going to very carefully undo those. There may be some springs inside as well. I can see a spring just about there, so things may ping out. Yeah, but that's often the case when you're fixing toys. Just be very careful as you undo them and try and keep a track of where things go. So let's get this apart and see if we can actually get it fixed, because if I can get it fixed, it will be an amazing toy. Even if I can't get it fixed, it still displays really very nicely. But yeah, let's hope that we can actually work out what's wrong and get it all put back together. So time to get the screwdrivers out. So we now have it all apart, and I've taken out all of the pieces that are not sort of needed for this wing mechanism, and those are just sitting there. And it's taken me a little while to actually work out what's going on, because I think someone's already had a go at fixing this. Certainly this piece that's broken off, it looks like it has been glued once before. There's a bit of glue residue on it, and then they've actually put the thing back together the wrong way round. So when I took it apart, this wing was on this side, and I was trying to work out how the mechanism worked, but actually that was just confusing me, because this piece needs to be on that side, and then this piece that's broken off goes here. So I have actually worked out how it works. There's a spring here which attaches to this wing section, so if I just hook that on, it's a little bit awkward to do, but it can be done. So hook that on, then put that on the post there. You can now see that this wing is spring loaded and you can push it in. There is a clip on the broken part here that actually hooks onto this section here, and that's a little lever that unhooks it, and then this wing sort of interlocks with this section here. It's a nice sort of mechanism, but as you can see there is a weak point, and that weak point is here, and I think that's because when you let go of it, the wing pieces will spring back and then they hit this metal post, and that's exactly where this one has snapped, where that piece of plastic hits the metal post. So I've got to repair this and also try and reinforce it. I think the plastic should work quite well with plastic welds, so I'm just going to weld these two pieces together just to get it in place, and then what I need to do is actually reinforce this section. And I think to do that I'm going to stick some bits of styrene on either side, so on the top and the bottom of the surface, just to give it some extra strength. It will need a bit bit of filing down and sanding just to make a nice flat surface. So I've got myself here just an offcut of a 1/2 mm thick styrene sheet, and I'm going to make a little brace that goes across it. I don't think it's going to interact with any of the other pieces, so I can actually make it sort of fairly sort of thick at that point. If it does, I'll have to sort of file it down a bit, but I think that's the way to do it. So first up, we'll plastic weld these two pieces together, and then I'm going to put a brace across that broken section. Hopefully that will be enough to fix it. And there you go, that is what I've done. So I plastic welded the two pieces together, and then on top of it and on the bottom I've plastic welded a 1/2 mm sort of piece of styrene sheet just to give it some extra strength, and that feels really pretty sturdy now, so we can actually test this. And now that I've put this together, I realized that I was actually doing something slightly wrong. I thought that was a hook there to hook the spring onto. Actually, I think the spring goes onto the post on this side. So what we can do is put these two pieces together, put the spring onto that post, and then put the two wings on, which is a little bit tricky to do. Let's get that all lined up. There we go. Now, if I put the top on, what should happen is when you push the wings together, there's a slight hook on that piece of plastic there, which was the bit broken off that wing, and it clips onto this little red piece of plastic there, which is on the button, and then you push the button, that moves it down, and the wings should fold out. So let's put this together and see if that has actually fixed it. We're only putting this together roughly at the moment. I've not got all of the pieces in. We've not got the wheels, not got the engines, so this is just a quick test. So you can see the wings are now in the out position. If I push them together, they should clip onto that little post there. So let's try that, which they do. So the wings are now held in place, and if I push that button, they open up. So that is all fixed. That was actually a fairly straightforward repair to do. It had obviously broken a long time ago, and luckily someone had kept that piece of plastic, or maybe it had been sort of stuck inside until recently and someone has sort of opened it up to take a look at it. But that, if I press that again, yeah, they're working really nicely. I was a little bit confused because in the bag there was also this tiny spring. I don't think that spring has anything to do with this toy. I think it's just happened to sort of get put in that bag. I can't see any reason for that spring to be added anywhere else. So it was just that break on the wings that needed fixing. So let's now go ahead and put everything back together. which is going to be a little bit awkward because we've got to put all of the mechanisms back in, and there's some other sort of metal pieces and bits to go in, so I'm going to have to sort of work my way backwards from how I took it apart. So I've now stripped it all back down to just the bare bones of it, which is just the spring that's riveted on. We can put everything back in step by step. So we have the front landing gear, which you can see has this sort of post that sticks out on the back of it, and that needs to go towards the back of the ship, because I think that's what stops the landing gear sort of folding back too far. So yeah, that looks right. We have the rear landing gear. That also has the same thing. So you can see there's this bit sticking out. So that obviously needs to face towards the back, and that has to go around this spring here. So we put that in like that. We have these rear engine pieces, which are these little chromed pieces of plastic. That looks like it just slots over the back here. Hard to know which way round that goes. I think possibly facing down. Yeah, I think the engine parts need to actually be sort of lower down on that. So put that down that way. We have these two chromed vents as well, and these go on either side. That looks fairly obvious which way around they need to go, because there's a tab on the back that has to go into a little slot. So I'll just drop that one in there, put the other one there. Then there's this red piece of plastic, which is the release mechanism for this spring. And as I mentioned, there's a little sort of lip there, which is what catches on the wing. So that needs to be facing upwards. So that dictates which way around that goes. That goes on like that. Then we have the mechanism that actually raises and lowers the landing gear, which is a couple of cogs on a post. So that just has to lie like that down the whole length of the ship. That's pretty good. And now we have to put the wings in, which is the final bit. So we link those two wings together. I've got to get that little post onto the spring, like so. Make sure I don't knock anything else out of position, because that rides over the top of all the other mechanisms. That's looking pretty good. I just don't want to move anything and nudge anything out of the way. Then we take the top and we can drop that over the top, make sure everything lines up, which it appears to have done. Turn this over and we'll put the screws back in, and I think that is the Gatchaman G1 all back and working. Okay, now that I've got this together with all of the mechanisms in, the landing gear does work again, but the locking mechanism doesn't actually work. It looks like everything's being lifted up slightly too far. If I pull that lever forwards, oh, maybe it's just a bit temperamental. Yeah, that is working. That is locked. If I press it again, I think it's just a very temperamental thing. Maybe that bit of plastic has bent slightly. I think I might take this apart and see if I can improve that again. There must be a way to improve that, make that work. Maybe that spring is needed. Not quite sure. Let me take it apart again and we'll see what happens. It could be that that spring is a vital component. I've just missed it somehow, because that certainly doesn't feel like it wants to clip. Maybe that spring needs to go on the underside of that post to push it up. That could be why it's there. Let's take it apart and see if we can get that working better again.
Toy-polloi. That is incorrect. Try again.
Okay, so I've taken it apart again and I think I can see what needs to be done. That spring is going to be needed, and I think it goes on the underside of this little red button here. So if I take the wings off again, which is a little bit awkward, we'll take that post out, which is the one that drives the landing gear, and we'll get this piece out. I think that spring possibly needs to go onto the underside of that post, so it possibly needs to go onto there. No, it's too big for that. I was thinking that maybe is needed to sort of push this piece up to make it lock a bit better. But I don't think that's right. So where does that post go, or how does that work? Because I just think that this needs to be pushed up slightly so that it's actually catching onto that hook there. But it's obviously not. Maybe it's because I've mended this and that's not quite flat anymore. Well, it looks pretty flat to me. I'm going to have a little ponder again, because I can't see a reason why that isn't locking. Okay, a bit more thinking off camera, and I've decided that that spring possibly is needed. So what I've done is I've actually twisted it onto the post on this little locking mechanism. So there's just a little bit of spring sticking out the bottom. I think that is going to be enough just to push that post up and make sure that it actually locks in place. When you're working on a toy that you've never seen before, and there's also sort of no other guides around to how it should go together, you do have to do a little bit of guesswork and a little bit of sort of trial and error to see, you know, what you can get to work. And with this one, I've got the parts, but yeah, I don't actually know how everything goes together, so I am sort of guessing a bit. But I think this should work. So let's put it all back together again. We'll screw it all together, and we'll see if that works any better just by putting that spring in the bottom. So yeah, let's give it one more go. Yeah, I think I've got it. That spring does make all the difference. So we should be able to put the landing gear down like that. And then if I press this button, that should force the wings out, which it does. And then when I push them together, they now click in place really nicely. So yeah, I think that was it. We just needed to add the spring to that little button. So it was a needed part. And I'm glad that it was in the bag, because without it, yeah, it wouldn't have worked properly. So there we go, that is it for this project. I've now managed to get my Gatchaman G-1 spaceship all back up and running. It's been a really fun project because when I started, I didn't know if I was actually going to be able to get this fixed and working. I was sort of half expecting just to have a displayable model at the end of it, not something that worked fully. So getting it in a completely working state is really very pleasing to me. It was just lucky that I found this in the state that it was, that it had all of the pieces with it that I needed to repair it. And as you can see, sometimes when you get a broken toy, you just have to take it apart and see if you can work out how it goes back together, and in this instance I was able to do just that. So hopefully this video has been of interest to you. If it has, then make sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the bell to be notified each time I upload a new video. And if you've really enjoyed it and want to help me out here at toy-polloi, then why not think about becoming a Patreon of the channel. You get early access to all of my restoration videos, plus access to an exclusive video series called On the Cutting Mat, where you'll see projects and restorations that you won't see anywhere else. So have a think about that, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching toy-polloi. Subscribe for more great videos.